concur with Councilmember Barragan about the referring this issue to the State Lands Commission. And I'm not sure if that was Councilmember Petty's opinion as well, but I think it's something that we should do, and we should do it sooner rather than later and get that process started. So if we are allowed, based on the agenda, to make this a motion or give direction for that today, then that would be my inclination would be to give that direction today. Thank you.
Councilwoman Petty.
Yeah, I'd like to add something. So if we do go to the State Lands Commission, I think there are other aspects of this deal that we may as well get clarification on. And some of it, because if we're going to go to them, we might as well get certain things, other things clarified. And it relates to advances. And, you know, I didn't bring the cost-benefit analysis with me, but in the CBA, the way they laid it out was they were using advances against Tideland's money. And that's not necessarily a permitted use. And so I think we need to be clear on other things that we may as well ask them, because I think advances is a real issue. What they did was they took a look at the 20-year-old lease and then extrapolated out using assumptions, their own assumptions, as to what they felt we could do with the Tideland's money. And I don't see how they did that. They just decided to extrapolate. So if we're going to go to the State Lands Commission, I think we should also vet whether or not we can use the advances as Cosmont postulated. And there's so many other areas that I think we actually should get clarification on, but that's a whole other discussion, unfortunately. So at a minimum, I would like to tack that on. And then I would totally support us going to the SLC.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, do you mind? Let me throw something out first. I'd like to maybe bifurcate the two discussions so we're not having two conversations at once. Do you mind pausing on that?
No, please.
Okay.
So I'll tell you what my concern is with that. Now we're getting into opening the can of worms of how long is this going to take and how many opinions are we going to ask and can we really get this thing back in a month or two? And I think we need to have it back in a month or two because we need to have the option of putting this thing on the November ballot. I think that whatever opinion they give us on these two narrow issues are going to be applicable. Because if they tell you you can't touch that unrestricted funds to pay a royalty payment, and they tell you you can't touch that restricted funds to pay in advance, guess what? I'm going to gather legally, logically speaking, that in there it's going to tell you you can't. So I would prefer to leave it that narrow with those two so that we can preserve a November election date and get this thing moving, get a vote tonight, get him started on this tomorrow, put it on the fast track, and get information to us and to our voters.
Because I think we need to have this public conversation. And I'm glad you brought it up. I really think we need to have this conversation. So, because I have been thinking about this too, and I have talked to the city attorney about this, and so this is my opinion, and this is really a tough one, because this is, Mr. Schmelzer said this a very long time ago, the Tideland, he's gone, where are you, George? But the Tidelands Trust, it is restricted use, and as Thomas pointed out too, they could revoke the trust. And so this is the alternative, okay? The alternative, because I hear what you're saying, Mayor, the alternative is this. The alternative is we keep the cost-benefit analysis as is, and we make our judgment, and our city attorney finds some cases that would substantiate a claim that we would have that we can use Tideland's restricted money to pay off the settlement, and we can use Tideland's money to cover advances, and then we use it, and we just told our residents via the CBA that, in our opinion, we can use restricted money in those ways. And then the State Lands Commission could then come back to us, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they could sue us. I mean, couldn't they sue us? They've got a lot of money, and they could sue us and say that we misused the Tidelands Trust money, and then we're kind of back in the same place. And then the residents, and this is where I would like to kind of hear your opinion, but the residents would say, I can't believe that when I voted on this project that I looked at that cost-benefit analysis and I thought this is the money we were going to make, and now we're in court Why didn't I know? Clear. Could we potentially be in a situation where we decide we're going to use Tideland's money to pay off pay off the 3 1/3 royalty? Could the State Lands Commission come back and sue us, and we would defend ourselves in court?
Yes.
Okay. So we're kind of back to the same. So then it really comes down to, I'm going to use the word forthright. In my opinion, how forthright would I want to be in presenting the economics of this deal to the voters? And in my opinion, I want to be as forthright as I possibly can be, because one option is, as the city attorney was laying out there, was we put out various scenarios, and then we have to explain what these different scenarios mean. And I kind of feel that people are not going to truly understand it unless they've really been immersed in all these conversations that we've had. They just won't. And so that's where I'm uncomfortable.
Understood. Council.
Won't reiterate the memo. There's a couple of things that I would like to point out for the benefit of the council that I think is important for you to understand. It reminded me sitting there of the old adage, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is permission. And here you have to keep in mind that once the project commences and there is production, the city will be a trustee. And in that regard, you have fiduciary duties managing the trust fund. And I think as a trustee and a fiduciary, it makes the most sense for the city to seek that opinion. The State Lands Commission is not going to go away. Once there is production, you will have to file annual reports as to what you are doing with the trust fund royalties and how they're being disposed of. And I think it makes all the sense in the world to get that opinion now and build that relationship now with the State Lands Commission. That would be my advice to you.
Great. That's helpful. Anybody have any questions to Michael? Okay. Somebody like to make a motion?
And between having these 2 issues evaluated versus 10, and if your opinion is there's maybe 3 issues that are out there that would help us clarify, maybe the council should trust you with dialogue with Cosmon to see what these questions are, what makes sense to be the most efficient set of questions, rather than us giving you direction. I think there's 2 questions right now that I get the sense that everybody here would like to get answered to, which is the restricted versus non-restricted and the advances. But if Cosmon thinks there's another issue out there, or 2 issues out there that they think is paramount for them to know to get a better sense of what the CBA should say, I would think it'd probably be helpful to get that input from them rather than for us here to decide what the issue is if they have the uncertainty.
I would agree with that. I
think since Councilmember Barragan mentioned those 2 points, because I'm getting a little tired here that I don't think it'll come out right. But I think just the follow-up would be these 2 items, and then allow Mr. Mills to have a discussion with Cosma and see if there's any other additional issues that would be important enough for them to add to that list.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we give direction to Mr. Mills to immediately proceed to get an opinion from the State Lands Commission on 2 issues. The one issue, which he briefed us on, was whether we can pay the 3.3% royalties to McPherson out of the Tidelands Restricted Trust Fund, and 2, whether advances can be paid out of the same fund, the Tidelands Restricted Trust Fund. Now, well, I'll just stop there.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and a comment?
I wanted to just make the friendly amendment that I mentioned before, which is also direct Mr. Mills to discuss with Cosma whether or not there's any additional significant issues that Cosma is not clear on, that an opinion from the State Lands Commission would be helpful in their preparation of the CBA. Your question, I guess my amendment was to give him the discretion in consultation with Cosma to decide if there any other issues need to be added in.
Okay, that's fine with me. I just, Mr. Mills, want to implore that we really need you to start this right away. Like, I don't want to hear in a week, oh, we haven't had a meeting with Cosma, so therefore we haven't started yet.
The intent was to go to the state lands to get more information for the voters, but that the cost-benefit analysis would be completed prior to probably hearing back from them.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Madam Clerk, the ayes have it, 5-0. We have any other business on